women's football seems completely different to me in that it's super inclusive. Everybody knows each other. Gay and lesbian, non-binary players are supported. Do you have an understanding of that difference that you can share?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty interesting topic and something that a lot of people are very curious about because it's like, how do we exist together under the same umbrella, but we seem to be completely different in the people we attract, I guess, and the way we operate. But I guess the easiest way to break it down is looking at the origins of football in both spaces uniquely. So for men's footy, I guess it's quite like typical. I guess at school, like it's rough, it's hyper masculine, and it's almost expected for young men to be involved in football if you want to be part of like popular groups or the dominant sort of culture. Whereas, and I think it's been like that for a long time. And if you watch men's footy, you'll hear about, private schools, old boys, all that talk that a lot of people are not really interested in learning about anymore, or maybe just a bit over it. Whereas for women's footy, it's been around for a long time, but it's often existed in the shadows and it's been forged by queer women and gender diverse people who, didn't care about what society thought of them. They were already rebelling against a lot of what was expected of them in terms of their sexuality and gender. And they created this space where they were going to play footy and, yeah, they just didn't care. Like people would, insult them and they didn't have support to be playing that, but they just created these little spaces and created leagues and things like that. And from that, eventually we lead into AFLW from these communities of people who knew that they deserved to be playing a sport and that it's a sport for everyone, even though the path or the space was never given to them. But without them, AFLW wouldn't exist. And I think we still have those really strong, that strong, I guess, lineage coming through now. And I guess it's important, I think, for us. Like I'm sort of a veteran in the league now, but it's important for me to continue to teach the younger players coming through because for the young ones, football was something that they could play growing up and they've always had, I guess, teams and being able to play with people like them. But for a long time, it hasn't been like that. So, yeah, that's sort of, I guess, the two different communities of AFLM and AFLW, and then they meet in the middle with AFL, and that's why they're quite different. But, yeah, I hope that the injection of AFLW makes the AFL overall feel like a safer space. And, we know statistically that there are, gay men playing AFL. And I think it would be a really difficult position for them to be in, to feel like it would feel like a huge weight on their shoulders, I think. But I hope that from us just living and being in that space and I guess demonstrating what it is to live a proud life and the way we support each other, I think is really important. I hope that it gives courage to someone to step out or a group of men to step out. But yeah, I can understand that it's a difficult position to be in.
It's really beautiful to hear you say that because I always picture the young kids that are watching you players and being influenced and looking up to you and idolising you. And I never think about what the male players who are alongside you might be getting in terms of a great influence and how that might be changing their positions.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, I think I watched the Four Corners they had about, sexuality in the AFL and why there isn't anybody out publicly. And I sort of reflected and I was thinking, I don't know if any of us have really openly shown our support for the male players out there who aren't straight. Like and I guess it is a position of privilege for us that we've never, like as soon as I entered women's footy, that was my first experience of seeing people truly embracing and celebrating people of all gender and sexual identities. And I didn't realise I hadn't seen that before until I was in it. Like it was like, oh, like that's what it feels like. That's what it looks like for people to be able to hold their partner's hand without hesitation, things like that. So I sort of thought, I wonder if we're doing enough to just offer support as well. Because, I don't know, I feel like when you're talking about hypotheticals, you can kind of forget that you are talking directly to someone or to multiple people. And you can sort of, I don't know, just act as though it's not impacting them, us having these conversations, but I think it is.